Vice President Kamala Harris is going to solve even more problems for America. You may remember when Joe Biden appointed her to solve the border crisis, kind of a surprising little event. And we're going to show you the clip when they were in the White House and Joe Biden says, hey, you know that problem down at the border that nobody has ever been able to solve for the last, as long as I've been alive, over 35 years? We've had Republicans in charge. We've had Democrats in charge. We've had congressional leaders try to solve this. Nobody can get it done. Joe Biden takes office. He says Kamala can do it, puts her in charge. So now that she has solved that problem once and for all in her brilliance, he's going to put her in charge of another problem, and it's voting rights. We're going to make sure that Americans are not dispossessed of their voting rights. This story comes over from NBC News. It says here, written by Dar Tunuro, that is a name right there, Dar Tunuro Clark, written June 1, says that Joe Biden said on Tuesday that Vice President Kamala Harris is going to lead the administration's push to protect voting rights as federal election reform legislation faces steep hurdles. In remarks commemorating the 1921 Oklahoma race massacre, he said, with her leadership and support, we're going to overcome again. That Harris is in charge and that she can address what remains on the stained soul of America. Harris said in a statement that she's going to work with organizations and lawmakers alike. In the days and weeks ahead, she said, I will engage the American people, work on and with voting rights organizations, community organizations, and the private sector to help strengthen and uplift efforts on voting rights nationwide. We will also work with our members of Congress to help advance these bills. Our administration will not stand by when confronted with any effort that keeps Americans from voting. The assignment expands Harris's portfolio. Biden selected Harris in March to lead the administration's diplomatic efforts in Northern Triangle of countries. That's not what he said, right? He said immigration. We got the clip next. We'll hold off. Countries of Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras as an effort to curb migration. All right, so let's see. We have the clip next, but he said Biden selected Harris in March to lead the diplomatic efforts in Northern Triangle countries. Okay, when I heard it, I thought it kind of about the border crisis on a bigger scale, but let's take a listen. Here is Joe Biden.
The VP today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle and the countries that help. We're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks stemming the migration to our southern border. And, back when I was vice president, I got a similar assignment, but one of the things we did was we made sure that we got a bipartisan agreement with Democrats and Republicans to provide over $700 million to the countries in the Northern Triangle to determine the best way to keep people from coming is keep them from wanting to leave. And the reason why so many people were leaving, we learned, was that not only gang violence and trafficking cartels, but natural disasters, hurricanes, floods, earthquakes. And so it's not like someone sits around a hand union table somewhere in Guatemala and says, I got a great idea, let's sell everything we have, give the money to a coyote, have them take our kids or us to the border of America, take us across, leave us in the desert, we don't speak the language. Won't that be fun?
Give it to Kamala.
One of the ways we learned is that if you deal with the problems in country, it benefits everyone. It benefits us, it benefits the people, it grows the economies there.
All right, well, we didn't get that clip. He gives it over to Kamala Harris, and he says, and that's why we're going to put Kamala Harris in charge of all of this. And she goes, yeah, thanks, Joe. She doesn't look good receiving that. Now, of course, her face is hidden behind a mask, and she looks sour that she just got handed a big dumpster sandwich right on her desk, and she's going to have to eat it. So the question has been, is she going to do anything meaningful on the border? White House, this was posted back on May 24th, 12:55, what is that, 7, 8, 9 days ago. We have the White House says no plans for Harris to visit the border despite a disturbing illegal immigrant video. So she was put in charge of that. And if you listen to the clip, it doesn't just say the Northern Triangle countries. That's not what he said, right? So this is a little bit dishonest here from NBC News, which is not surprising. Biden selected Harris in March to lead the diplomatic efforts in the Northern Triangle countries of Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. That is not what Joe Biden said. Joe Biden said in charge of dealing with Mexico and the other Northern Triangle countries. So that was just not accurate. So why wouldn't she go down to the border? Joe Biden went off and, rambled about hurricanes and whatever, which I don't, I guess, are there hurricanes like in Mexico City? I guess, maybe, I don't know. But still, there are no plans for Kamala to come and check out the border. White House on Monday said, yep, nope, no plans. New video showed a group of 50 illegal immigrants overwhelming the border in Texas. Despite the alarming footage, Press Secretary Jen Psaki said that Harris, who was appointed by Biden to oversee the border in March, has made no arrangements to surveil the situation in person or talk to local officials. Said, quote, I expect she will make a trip to the Northern Triangle at some point soon so that we would be there and she would travel given her purview. All right, well, so not Mexico, because Joe Biden just said Mexico. The video, taken by a drone by Fox News, shows one agent in a pickup truck trying to capture more than a dozen migrants running along a dirt road. Two of them are fleeing the road. They appear to be handcuffed together, indicating they had escaped custody. Eventually, the agents were able to capture about 20 of them. Group made up mostly adult males. Another group of migrants, 53 people, came from Venezuela, Guatemala. Governor Abbott warned. Let's see. Mexican President Obrador has blamed the new president for the crisis, arguing that, quote, the expectations he set left migrants with the perceptions that they would be let into the U.S. Yeah, this is exactly the point, right? And I've been saying this for months now. It's about incentives. When you tell people that you can come into the United States, they're going to believe you. Surprisingly, believe that or not. Donald Trump's policy was, if you want to immigrate into the U.S. and access our immigration system and our court of law, you can do that. You can apply for asylum, but you got to wait in Mexico while you do it. Joe Biden undid that. It was basically his first day. Said, oh, you don't have to wait in Mexico anymore. That was racist. So now if you want access to our country and our system and our courts, just come right on in. Just come into America. No problem at all. You don't have to wait over there. We're going to deal with you. What do we have? We've got entire facilities filled with children and women and men and a bunch of people in squalid conditions. That is a humanitarian crisis that they're not calling a humanitarian crisis. They're saying that this has to do with the Northern Triangle countries, not people dragging their 4-year-olds across the desert in June and July in 120-something degree weather. People are going to be dropping dead. People are going to be killing each other. We're going to see this video next where there's madness with Border Patrol agents, right? Somebody's going to get killed. Somebody's going to get hurt, if not already happening. And the Biden administration wants to blame hurricanes. And they want to say that it's cartel violence. Okay. The Mexican president himself has said, no, it's your fault there, Sleepy Joe. You said that they can come into the United States. You said so during your campaign. You said so through your laws that you're changing in the White House. Now people are actually listening to you, and you're going to put Kamala Harris in charge, who's not even going to go down to the border and see what's going on, doesn't even consider Mexico to be a part of the issue. She wants to go deal with the Northern Triangle countries. And do you know why that is, folks? I don't blame her for a second. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't want that problem either. Nobody can fix it because it's not supposed to be fixed. We have both parties who are very happy with the current situation. They don't give a whit against, some mom dragging her kids across the desert in the middle of July. They don't care at all about that because it serves them. It serves the Democrats with cheap labor and a whole new class of voters, and the Republicans, it's the same thing. Cheap labor, and they want them to vote for him. So nobody wants to fix this. Meanwhile, we have people who are dying and getting taken advantage of and being raped and being trafficked because this administration has created perverse incentives. And it's not about these migrants. I love people who want to come to America and be a part of what we have. It's a beautiful thing. And I think that a lot of these people have a lot more love for the country than many Americans here, unfortunately. These people are willing to leave everything behind, drop everything, pick up their kids, pick up what little belongings they have, walk 1,000 miles to go be a part of something. That's a miracle. Unfortunately, the country just doesn't have the capacity to handle all of the world at any given time. But I am somebody who is in favor of reasonable conversations about immigration into this country. It's a great country. We want excellent people to come and be a part of it. I don't have any problems with that. I do have a problem, though, when our government is incompetent and they create perverse incentives that result in a humanitarian crisis and result in people being trafficked across the border and being raped by criminal elements of, I guess, drug cartels. This is the clip over from Fox News.
To watch. So let's take a look at it again, because this is what Border Patrol deals with every day. This is a large group of migrants not turning themselves in. They decide to run away from border agents, 30 to 40 people scattering into a field. If you take a look, it's mostly young men, and 2 of the guys are actually handcuffed as they're running, suggesting maybe they were in custody before. You see a single border agent trying to chase this group down in his pickup truck, but he's completely outnumbered. This happens down here quite a bit. The migrants continue running, scattering in the field. Some of them kind of fall into what appears to be a stream. The big group keeps going. One guy stays behind. Again, another border agent is trying to keep going after them. The group continues running. Some of them go scale a fence trying to get away. Ultimately, some Border Patrol units did end up catching up with that group of migrants. They took about 15 to 20 of them into custody, but as you mentioned, it did appear from what we saw that some of that group did end up getting away and escaping into the brush. Now,
it's just terrible. It's just terrible. It's just ridiculous. This is something that we are causing this. We are causing this problem by saying, come on in. This is a policy change that happened, and it's going to continue to get worse. So why is Kamala Harris not particularly interested in solving this problem? Because she can't. I really don't blame her for not wanting anything to do with it. And she's making the right political move by just trying to abandon ship. Looks like here, according to CNN, that Vice President Harris's team tried to distance her from the fraught situation at the border. Obvious, right? I said this when it was happening. I said it during that meeting with Biden and Kamala. Oh gosh, she is not happy about this. And now we know that is the truth. This was written by Priscilla Alvarez, Natasha Bertrand over at CNN, posted yesterday. In the weeks since the president asked her to take charge of immigration, one thing and her staff has sought to make one thing clear: she does not manage the southern border. So sorry, Joe. She does not manage the southern border. Okay, that's one thing her staff and Kamala have made clear. 2 White House officials familiar with the dynamic said Harris and her aides have emphasized internally that they want to focus on conditions in Central America that push migrants into the U.S., as President Joe Biden tasked her to do. That's not what he said. Emphasize in Central America. He just said Mexico, folks. I heard it. I played it. You heard it too. A record number of unaccompanied children crossing the U.S. this spring, and the throngs of desperate minors present a heart-rending problem as well as a political one. Biden's announced that Harris's new assignment on March 28th ahead of an immigration meeting, telling reporters that he had asked the vice president, quote, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico, there it is, and the Northern Triangle and the countries that can help the need in stemming the movement. So many of the folks stemming the migration to our southern border. Southern border. So she wants to go and deal with Central America, where the problem is as the southern border. And Joe Biden didn't tell her to go just to Central America. He said, you got to deal with Mexico also. After the announcement, Harris's aides appeared to panic. And we didn't have that clip today, but you can see it in her face. One of the officials, out of concern that her assignment was being mischaracterized and could be politically damaging if she were linked to the border, which at the time was facing a growing number of arrivals. Another White House official pushed back on the sentiment, saying that the team wasn't panicked. One of the officials said Harris appears eager for a portfolio that will allow her to achieve political victories, especially in foreign policy, where an area where she's far less experienced than Biden. What's Biden's experience with foreign policy? I hate that crap. All these senators. Why? Because you're a senator? Instead, Republican critics in the media have portrayed her new immigration role as a border assignment, potentially opening her up to criticism for attempting to handle it. Yeah, so she was absolutely panicked, and it makes sense. I think it is the right political move. You do not want to be anywhere near the border, especially if you've got future ambitions for political office. So if Kamala had accepted this and not drawn a hard line, the Republicans can run against her on that when she inevitably runs in 2024. So now she's trying to distance herself. So when that line of attack comes, she's just going to turn around and say, oh no, I was only talking about the Northern Triangle. Okay, we need to deal with the systemic causes, right? Not the actual causes, which is our administration. We got to deal with the other garbage that we're making up because we don't want to deal with the political consequences of having to revert back to competent policies that Trump had. We don't want to go back to that. So we're going to blame other things like drug cartels, which of course are a big problem, but also things like hurricanes and climate change. And I wonder if the white patriarchy, systemic racism issue is going to come up down there in those Central American countries also, because why not? We have Harris and her staff. They've made clear that they want to focus narrowly on the diplomatic efforts. The recent commitments Harris secured from 12 private companies to invest in the Northern Triangle are one example. Oh, good. So we're going to have some investment down there, which presumably is going to stop, I guess, the crisis at the border. Former and current officials, along with immigration experts, stress the causes of migration and the surge are inextricably linked, and argue that while addressing the reasons people decide to migrate is critical, it can't be divorced from what's happening at the U.S.-Mexico border. No kidding. You can't divorce the border from Mexico or Central America or the interior. It's all one system. Everything you were doing in Central America is an eye up on the border. All right, so, yeah, so, all right, let's finish this article here. Tens of thousands of migrants from Central America arrive every month. As of April, there were 178,000 migrants picked up by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol. 79,000, or 44% of those, were from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. So less than one half of the immigrants were actually from the Northern Triangle countries. Everybody else came from, I guess, Mexico. Harris's role, which mimics that of Biden under Obama, is intended to target what's driving people to the U.S. Harris is thought to be a leading Democrat a candidate for 2024, obviously. She and her staff appeared wary of becoming a scapegoat for Republicans. Not so unfounded concern after a GOP lawmaker photoshopped her face onto a milk carton and accused her of being missing at the border. See that down here? Missing at the border, Vice President Kamala Harris. Okay, the fraught politics is why. Immediately after the president announced Harris's new role, Harris aides seemed dismayed when they saw some Republicans and media outlets trying to characterize her as the new border czar. She was not happy about it. Biden's announcement, both the president and the vice president clarified repeatedly that she's focused solely on the diplomatic efforts to stem the current flow of migrants. Oh, and her role is to address the root causes. So, in other words, folks, she's not going to solve anything. Okay, so just get that out of your mind. They don't even intend to do that. It was a political spec. They needed to do something. If you recall, when this announcement happened, there were just throngs of people coming over. We kept seeing imagery of kids in cages, lots of kids, way more kids in cages than anything that we saw under the Trump administration. And they all had the space blankets on, and they were limiting access. We had people wanting to go down there and take a look at what's happening inside these facilities. They were not allowing access in. So they just needed to throw something out there. Biden doesn't really know where he is most of the time. He says, Kamala Harris, she can fix this for me. Obama did this when I was vice president, so I'm going to do it to her now. She goes, that is an awful idea. I want nothing to do with this. Why? Daily Caller is confirming that her team panicked. Staffers to the president say that she panicked, concerned about being labeled as somebody who is, weak on the border. CNN says in the weeks since the president asked her to take charge, vice president and her staff have sought to make one thing clear. She does not manage the border. Here is a quick clip here from, it looks like, Brnovich on Harris. No response is allowed response. I think this might be Mark Brnovich from Arizona, who is our attorney general here. Let's take a look at this clip.
Do you think this indicates about what this administration's priorities are, Chris?
Well, I don't know about priorities, but it doesn't seem that they have much of an answer to the crisis at the border. And maybe that's the reason that they're not pushing it. And it's so interesting because when the president first said that he was putting Kamala Harris as vice president in charge of the border, the sense was that he was putting her in charge of the border, the whole issue. And then a day or so later, the clarification came, well, no, she's not in charge of the border. She's in charge of diplomacy with Mexico and with the Northern Triangle countries to try to stem the flow to the border. She's had a couple of phone calls with top officials in those countries, but she hasn't gone to the border, and she hasn't gone to the Northern Triangle, and she hasn't gone to Mexico, which kind of makes you wonder whether she knows this is a mess and doesn't want her fingerprints on it.
Yes, Chris Wallace, home run. Well done, Chris. She does not want her fingerprints on it, and she did not want it from day one. When I watched the original handoff there, it felt like she had no idea it was even coming. Like Joe Biden just said, here, just come in and sit down here. I got a surprise for you here, Kamala. Let's take a look at some questions over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. That address is right down here at the bottom if you want to check that out. Also, subscribe to us over at Rumble because we're building up a little bit of a nice following over there. Appreciate all the support. So Nadarb is here, says, have you seen these pictures or heard about federal contractors being paid to transport these kids all over the U.S., like in Tennessee, where the Tennessee government called out the Biden administration for bringing people into the state without them even knowing? Odd. Weird. No, I have not heard about this story or seen this. It says, please help me. I do not speak English. What plane do I need to take? Thank you for your help. I have not seen that. Now, I have seen signs like this. I've seen paperwork like that, in airports before. So, maybe that's just somebody, or maybe this is a thing that's happening. I don't know. Thanks for flagging that, though, Nadar. Appreciate it. Interesting. We got Jeremy Matrita is here. Says, anytime someone offers so many reasons why something is happening, it usually means they're making things up. Yeah. It's like, hey, let's see if we can identify why people might be coming into the United States. Is it hurricane season? Are there earthquakes down there? Do we have rampant, out of control fires, coronavirus? What could be possibly making them all want to come suddenly? Is there anything that happened in the last 6 months that could have caused a change? Well, we got a new president who came in and changed a bunch of immigration rules. Could that be it? Yeah. It is it, and they don't want it to be that because it's a political problem for them. If that's the problem, if the problem is their politics, that's like the worst outcome because that means they have to change their politics, and then they're going to look like a bunch of idiots for having to say, Trump was right. You're right. We actually need, stricter immigration or more controls at the border. Or what if they said, yeah, you're right. We should probably start building that wall again, huh? That would not go well for him. So rather than ever accept responsibility, they're taking a little tip from Trump's playbook here. It's double down on it. Oh no, not our policies are great. Has nothing to do with the incentives that we created here. Mexican president, no idea what he's talking about. All the immigrants who say, oh, we're coming here because Joe Biden said that he'd give us a nice little place to stay. Don't listen to them either. We know what it's about. Do you know how we know this? Because we put Kamala Harris in charge, and she's so smart that she can go in there and solve this for us. So I would like to see some momentum. I would like to see her go down there and actually work on these Northern Triangle countries and address, I guess, climate change and the hurricanes and everything that's causing the real problem. Is that going to happen? No, it's not intended to. They just needed to kick the can down the road for the next administration to deal with.